I love business and I love helping small business people build their business by hiring the right people and then building a team to help them grow that business and scale the business. Because if you don't have good people and they're not working well together, you're not going to have a business. And the thing about coaching is, I did not have a good start in life. And I was an abused foster welfare child. Um, and so I had to teach myself a lot of things about life and how to get along in life. And I, through my coaching, I think I like to help people avoid a lot of the mistakes I made and a lot of the pain that I carried.
That's a very interesting introduction. And could we touch more on the whole area of the abuse you suffered as a child? And how did you overcome that in your adult life?
Yeah, John, we still have the ability to make choices. And your show, of course, addresses people who have faced some traumatic times, and as you did, and you have choices to make. You can either pick yourself up and make some good choices, or you can take a different route that's not so productive. But we have that choice to make, and we can find ways to have a better life. We can find ways to get help for ourselves. And that's one of the things that I think coaching does. And I think you would agree with this, is that we help people build those supportive networks for themselves, because oftentimes, particularly coming from a background like I did, I didn't have that. And I didn't know how to build it either. So like I said, I've had to teach myself how to do that. And I like to teach other people how to do that and save them some time.
And at any stage in your life, did you ever go for counseling or psychotherapy, or or to get help to help you to overcome the issues you had as a child and the abuse you suffered?
Absolutely, absolutely. In my 30s, one day I kind of had an epiphany. It suddenly dawned on me that other people didn't talk about themselves like I talked about myself and to myself, in a very negative fashion. They had self-confidence. I didn't. They felt good about themselves. I didn't. They felt they had value. I felt worthless. And so I did seek therapy. And I've had a lot of therapy over the years. And, you will reach a plateau and you'll get fine. And then sometimes something might happen, like a divorce, which also happened to me, and you might go back for therapy. And that's when I went to school. I didn't start school because till late in life, because I thought I was too stupid to go to college. That's how low my ego was. But now I have a master's degree, and with that, I can get a cup of coffee. But it's just a matter of choosing that path to help you grow and contribute to the value of other people and to your own life as well. To learn not to talk to yourself in a negative manner. That's a real important place to start. And it's a very inexpensive place to start, even before you seek therapy. And even if you have to say no out loud, like I did, when you hear those thoughts coming in your head, you have to stop them immediately and change that verbiage in the way you talk to yourself. So that's a great place to begin.
Yes, I completely agree with you there, Diane, that negative self-thought, or talk, I should say, is one of the worst things you can do in life, because all you're doing is talking your own chances down, and you're giving people the power to control you as a person. If, on the other hand, you concentrate on what you're good at, then you're developing your confidence, but more importantly, you're developing confidence in people about you as a person, and they're more likely to interact with you on a more happy footing, I suppose you could say. How did you feel when you graduated from university with a master's degree?
Well, it was very gratifying for me. I'm happen to be one of those people that likes to learn, and it was gratifying because I did have some brains in this head of mine, and I could do things, and I could be successful at something. And doing what I do, the coaching, my undergrad was in psychology and my master's is in industrial organizational psychology. I thought if I could say it, I could pass it. But that gave me the foundation because I knew that I wanted the tools to really do my job well that I do for coaching. And you make some great points, John, about the way you feel about your own self, because if you feel badly about yourself or talk negatively about yourself or don't have self-confidence, nobody else is going to feel that good about you either or have confidence in you either. So that's an excellent point that you make, that you have to put your confidence out there for other people to believe in you. And it's taken me a long, long time to believe that, or to learn that, I should say. And I'm certainly not an egomaniac, but I certainly know now that I do have some skills and talents and value that I can bring to other people to help them have a better life.
How do you feel about storytelling and talking about your own personal story at, say, NSA regional events or at Toastmasters International, for example?
Yes, absolutely. I've been in the Toastmasters, an excellent program they have. And I'm a past president of the National Speakers Association local chapter here in Atlanta. And, John, the skill of public speaking can bring you so much confidence in so many other areas of your life. It's amazing what public speaking can do for you. You don't have to go out and make a living at it, although you can certainly, but it helps you to negotiate. It helps you to debate. It helps you to sell yourself. For example, your audience, if they're going to be out there looking for another job, they are actually in business for themselves because they have to sell themselves. They are the product. And if you can't speak in public well, you're not going to interview well. You're not going to be able to sell that product that is you. And once you get a career or get a job, you have to learn how to build that career. In fact, I've just started 3 mastermind groups. One is on building your career. There is an art and a science to that. And it helps people to be less likely to be laid off, as we say here in America, or become redundant, as you say there in Scotland. So public speaking is a great way in so many areas of your life to move yourself forward.
What made you move into the area of industrial psychology for your master's degree after doing psychology for your undergraduate degree?
Good question. I did not want to go into therapy. I discovered that in psychology. I didn't think I would be good at that area, but I do love the world of work and I do love business. Now, I work with small to medium-sized businesses in terms of my team building. So that is a different area, yet you're still dealing with people and the way they think, their behaviors, what drives them. I work with assessments, and my favorite assessment that I have actually has 4 sciences in it. And we work with people on their behaviors, the way they communicate, the way they interact with other people. So I'm still helping people interact and build better relationships, but not in the therapeutic area, more in the business area.
I had a very interesting conversation some months ago with a colleague of mine, Henry Rose Lee, and her area of expertise is intergenerational working. Do you think it is important for managers in industry to be able to modify their communication styles and skills to communicate more effectively with the different age groups, whether it's baby boomers, millennials, Generation X, that type of people, you know?
Right. Yeah, and there are several generations in the workforce today, of course. In fact, the blog I'm writing this week is on, strangely enough, intellectual curiosity. And, John, it's one thing to have knowledge on a topic, but if you're a manager, you have to have intellectual curiosity about your people. And it isn't like some people, when they get married, they tell their spouse, I love you, and they never say that again. It's a continuous process. Okay. You have to keep knowing your people because people change. Those millennials, those Gen Xers, the Gen Ys, all of those, they do mature and they grow up. And of course, their motivations change, their goals change. As a manager, you have to, of course, start with what you have and understand the people where they are. But as they grow, as they mature physically as people, but also as they progress through your organization, thinking about your succession planning, it is your duty to keep up with these people and have an intellectual curiosity about them. So that can, in a sense, be even more important than having topical knowledge at times.
What advice would you give to a person who's worked in, say, a multinational organization or a large organization who's now been made redundant and they're thinking about starting their own business?
They need to talk to you or me first, okay? Because we have both learned a lot in the process of starting our own businesses because we've both been in the corporate area. You've got to know what it is you want to do. You've got to know your talents. You've got to know what your goal is. I've just told you what mine is in terms of working with people and helping them succeed, both in a business and growing a business, but also helping individuals within a team. So I can help a team and individuals, but a person has to know whether they want to go work in a manufacturing, if they want to build a manufacturing company, or if they want to work in the people area, like say I do, or if they want an automobile dealership where they deal with a lot of sales. You've got to know what your passion is, and you've got to know what your skills and talents are before you ever begin. So I would do a lot of upfront work on that. And then, of course, you've got to know about how to operate a business. You can't just jump into it not knowing how things work in business. The cost, for example, that's a whole nother animal right there. And how much you really need to start a business. Some people can start some businesses on a shoestring, but other businesses, particularly if you're going to go into manufacturing, that's a whole nother ballgame, and that's a huge investment. So those are some of the things you need to know.
What advice would you give to a person who's been made redundant and they're thinking about going back into full-time employment?
Again, John, I think that people don't realize it's a two-way street. The job may want you, but do you want it? Again, thinking about where your talents can best be used and how you can best serve, because you can still serve in a corporation. You've got to be aware of the culture of the corporation that you want to go into. Does it suit your values? If it's just a company that's out there to just for the money, and you have a different set of values where maybe you want to help people or help the environment, and you're going to interview with a company that's wasteful and doesn't care about the environment, you're not going to have a good match. So you really need to investigate that company. One of the things that I have people do is I make them start out with a list of 25 companies they think they want to work with. Investigate those companies, and it's so easy today with the internet and so much information that's out there. Find out about the culture of the company, interview people that work at that company or who have worked at that company if you possibly can. And that's a living, breathing document. So let's say you investigate a company and say, company's not for me. Take them off your list, but replace it with another company. Keep that list because, John, it can happen again. It's happened to me many times when I was working in corporations. Okay, so you could get made redundant again. Pull out your list and you're ready to go.
I'm going to touch a few buttons here with you, Diane, if I might.
Sure.
Going back to your childhood, did you have anybody to confide in about the fact that you were being abused?
No, I was taken away from my parents because they were alcoholics, and the police found my two older brothers and I on the street. And so we were taken away that very day and placed in these foster homes that really didn't care about us. We were separated and never lived together again, formally. Um, I was sexually abused. If it was found out, I was taken out of the home. Nothing was ever done to those people. I was beaten one time. Then this may be a little difficult for listeners to hear. My parents had domestic situations, and my father wound up dead, and my mother was sent to prison. This happened when I was in my third foster home, and so I was going to be put up for adoption, but an aunt and uncle brought me here to Atlanta, and they were very strict. They had never had any children of their own. They were already elderly when they had me or brought me here. And so I really didn't learn anything about that kind of thing, or I was always too afraid to talk about it to anybody until I really got into therapy and then wrote a book about my experiences. So yes, it was difficult to find anyone to talk to at that time. Times are different now, thank goodness.
True, very true indeed. I mean, it's been a history of abuse of children here in Ireland, and some of our major bodies here in Ireland got a lot of flack for it. That's a subject for another day. What's been the most proudest moment in your life, may I ask?
I think learning to not let this kind of a trauma take me totally down. Certainly I've been down, and certainly I've had difficulty with relationships and made lots of big mistakes in my life, but you move on. And that's the thing, John. It's not how many times you fail, it's how many times you get back up. And that's a big message I want to send to your audience, because you have to keep going. There's really no choice. You have to keep living. You have to keep contributing, and you just have to find a way to make a better life for yourself. And today there are many ways out there. When you and I were coming up, they didn't have great coaches like you to help them, and now they do. So there's plenty of ways to get help today. And I would encourage anyone to take advantage of any type of help like that. I mean, hey, even coaches have coaches, right?
True. What does the future hold for Diane Bogino?
Well, I want to keep scaling my business, and these three mastermind groups that I've just started. One is for career building, one is for people who are stuck and undecided, and one is for people who want to start a small business. I want to grow those and build those up, and they should keep me pretty busy, continue with my team building, help any small to medium-sized business I can grow their business, because I think business is important, both where you are and where I am. Small business contributes a lot to the world, to people, to humanity. And so I see that as a great purpose for me to continue working on. So that's where I want to continue taking my talents.
What has been the biggest lesson you have learned as a professional person when you moved from employment into self-employment and starting your own coaching business?
Oh, wow. I think, John, learning about business and learning that it's okay to fail. And one of the things that I failed to do, this is another good lesson, is I did not market myself like I should have when I first started my business. And as you know, I have a podcast. You were one of my first guests. So it has given me the opportunity to have interviews like this. I mean, it's a reciprocal thing for people who have podcast shows to interview one another. But then you take those interviews and you put them out there and help market yourself. So that's one big lesson that I learned, is to market yourself. You absolutely have to do that. They're not going to come find you hiding in the closet.
True. And I think the advice I give to people who are thinking about starting a business is you've got to identify, first of all, where you bring value to your tribe. And then you have to find that tribe and to get to know them as people. So you don't achieve success overnight in starting a business. It's a long process and you have to stick with the process and don't allow people to derail you. I think that's the most important piece of advice I can give to people who are thinking of starting a business, particularly a service or consultancy type business where it takes time to build that tribe. Looking back at
That's
your
right.
life again, Diane, there, what if you were to go back to university, would you study psychology again?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I would. Um, and I even thought about getting a PhD, but at this stage of the game, I think I'm happy where I am. Um, but yeah, this is what I do is absolutely what I love, and I just can't imagine doing anything else.
And please describe an ideal client for me.
Ah, in terms of business, it's a small to medium sized business that may be struggling to scale their business. They may have a dysfunctional team. People are not getting along, they're not being productive. I would come in and help them work better together. We can look at, I'll just give you an example. I had a client, we administered assessments to them. I can give them a team report. They can see exactly what talent they have now, what they need for their future. In this particular instance, you could drive a bus where they had no business development and they wanted to build their business to $1 billion, which they've done since I was working with them. And now they're even moving on more. So a business that might be struggling with that. And then individually, people who are struggling to be better performers, or who want to build their career, start a small business, or who are stuck. I can get you unstuck, help you get out of your own way, because I've had to do it so many times myself.
Yeah. What are they, I suppose you could say, the common issues in terms of effective team communication in your experience?
Um, People don't really understand other people. For example, let's take the DISC assessment. Everybody's familiar with that. There's very few people on the planet that don't know about the DISC and the 4 behavioral styles. The high D, of course, is the assertive aggressive individual, and they scare a lot of people, but they don't mean to do that. They're just trying to get something done. So they might say something like, I don't care if your cat just died, get me those files I asked for. They're just trying to move forward. Maybe they're not that bad, but and the high I person is they're very talkative and chatty. But the D doesn't like that. They just want to get to the point. So those two have to kind of adapt their behaviors and communication styles to learn to communicate better and get through a project. You're not becoming somebody else. You're simply trying to be more productive. So if you understand each other in that regard a little bit better, and in terms of what motivates people, a good manager will know what motivates somebody, because if an organization has one reward for the entire organization, maybe that doesn't suit everybody. Somebody might want to go to a training program. Somebody else might want to go work on a nonprofit project. So those are things you need to know about people to help them be more productive and help your organization grow and be more successful.
That's a great answer, because I do know of the DISC profile myself, and there would be a bit of D in me and a bit of C, to be honest. Um,
Yes.
how do you think, just going back to the DISC profile, and it's probably a very theoretical question, but I'll ask the question anyway. How would a D dominant individual and the steadfast individual get along, or try to get along, I should say?
A D person and a C
S.
person?
S. S
Oh, an
for
S
self-love.
person.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah, that would take a lot of work for sure because the S person is not as assertive and aggressive and cares a great deal about people. Now, high D may care about people as well. They may have that motivation, right? They could be a high D and work at a nonprofit and care about people. So it's not what you are, it's how you use what you are. And it's just understanding the other person's style. And this is what the DISC assessment does, it lays it out for the entire team. So you see everyone's behaviors. You can then learn how to interact with that individual. So the high D and the high S just needs to learn to not let the D intimidate them, get to the point, understand that they need to have their ducks in a row if they're going to be in a conversation with the high D, have their material ready and get to the point. The high D needs to understand that they cannot just jump into things with the S and just kind of be a scary individual with them, because they're not, they need to kind of tone it down a little bit, so to speak, to deal with an S individual as well as a C individual for that matter.
Yeah. Great answer. Have you got a gift for the audience today?
I do. I do. If they will email me and put boots, BOOTS, in the subject line, I will email them a copy of my book, Finding Your Bootstraps: 11 Steps to Overcoming Victim Thinking. Part of this is my story, but the other part is a workbook that they can actually work through a lot of things that they might be dealing with. So I would encourage anybody that's stuck to go ahead and send me the email for that and just put boots in the subject line.